The storm brought her to his door, soaking wet, bruised, trembling with fear. She whispered 3 words that shattered his quiet retirement. "They took your son." What she revealed next changed everything. The child he never knew existed was kidnapped, and the lonely man who'd walked away from everything was the only one who could save him. The storm hit the coast like God's fist. Adrian Moretti stood at the window of his seaside manor, watching lightning crack the sky open. Rain hammered against the glass, so hard it sounded like gravel. He'd lived alone in this house for 3 years now, 3 years since he'd walked away from the life that had defined him for 2 decades. The mafia, the violence, the empire. All of it gone. Now, at 42, he was just a man in an empty house, listening to storms and trying to forget the things he'd done. He poured himself 2 fingers of whiskey and was raising the glass to his lips when he heard it. Knock, knock, knock. Frantic, desperate. Adrian froze. Nobody came to this house. Nobody even knew where it was. He'd bought it under 3 different shell companies and paid cash. The nearest neighbor was 2 miles down the beach. Knock, knock, knock. Whoever it was, they weren't leaving. Adrian set down his glass and crossed the room. His hand instinctively went to the drawer in the side table. The gun was still there, cold and familiar. He left it. He'd promised himself he was done with that. He opened the door. The woman on his porch was soaked to the bone, her dark hair plastered to her face. She wore jeans and a thin jacket that did nothing against the storm. Her lip was split. There was a bruise blooming purple across her left cheekbone. And her eyes were wild with terror. Maya? Adrian's voice came out rough, disbelieving. Maya Chun, his ex-wife's little sister. He hadn't seen her in 5 years, not since the funeral. She stumbled forward, gripping the doorframe. Adrian, I'm sorry, I didn't know where else. Get inside, he pulled her in, scanning the darkness behind her.
No headlights.
No cars. How did you get here? I walked. From the highway, she was shaking violently, whether from cold or fear or both. He couldn't tell. Adrian, please, you have to listen to me. You're hurt, he reached for her face, but she jerked back.
Ai fine.
That doesn't matter, her voice cracked. Adrian, they took him.
Who?
Who took? They have your son. The words hit him like a bullet. Adrian went completely still. The storm raged outside, but inside, everything had gone quiet. What did you say? Maya's eyes filled with tears. Your son. Yours and Claire's. They took him, Adrian. They kidnapped him 3 days ago, and if I don't give them what they want, they're going to kill him. Adrian's mind was reeling. Claire had been his wife for 2 years. 2 years of trying to pull her into a life she hated. 2 years of watching her flinch every time his phone rang. 2 years of her begging him to leave the mafia. When she finally left him, he'd been angry, hurt, but he'd let her go. She died in a car accident 4 years ago. He'd gone to the funeral, stood in the back, never said a word. She'd never told him she was pregnant. That's not possible, Adrian said slowly. Claire left me 6 years ago. If she'd been pregnant. She was, Maya's voice was steady now, despite the tears streaming down her face. She found out 2 weeks after she left. She was going to tell you, but then, she swallowed hard. Then she found out she was pregnant the same day you killed Tommy Breslin. Adrian remembered. Breslin had been skimming from the family. Adrian had handled it personally, messily. It was all over the news, Maya continued. Claire saw what you did. She couldn't bring a child into that world, Adrian. She was terrified you'd raise him the way your father raised you. So she just never told me. The betrayal tasted like copper in his mouth. She was protecting him. And she was right too, Maya's voice hardened. Look what happened the moment anyone found out who his father was. They came for him. Adrian's hands clenched into fists. Who has him? I don't know their names.
But they knew about you.
They knew about Claire. They've been watching us for weeks, maybe longer. She pulled a crumpled photo from her jacket pocket and thrust it at him. Adrian took it with shaking hands. The boy was 4 years old. Dark hair. His mother's delicate features. But his eyes were Adrian's. Green and sharp and unmistakable. His name is Lucas, Maya whispered. He likes dinosaurs. He's afraid of the dark. He calls me Auntie May. Her voice broke. And 3 days ago, 2 men broke into our apartment and took him while I was at work. Jesus Christ. Adrian couldn't look away from the photo. His son. He had a son. They called me that night, Maya continued. They said if I went to the police, they'd kill him. They want something Claire hid before she died. Financial records. Offshore accounts. Evidence of mafia money laundering from your old family. Adrian's blood ran cold. Claire had access to that. She worked in your accountant's office for 6 months before she left you. She must have copied files as insurance, in case you ever came after her. Maya's laugh was bitter. Guess she was smarter than we thought. Do you have the records?
No.
Claire never told me where she hid them. I've torn apart her old apartment, her storage unit, everything. I can't find them. Maya grabbed his arm, her nails digging in. But these people don't believe me. They think I'm lying. And they said if I don't hand them over in 3 days. She couldn't finish the sentence. Adrian looked down at the photo again. Lucas, his son. For years of birthdays and first words and bedtime stories, all stolen from him. And now the boy was in the hands of men who would kill him without hesitation. The old rage stirred in his chest, the cold, calculated fury that had made him one of the most feared men in the Northeastern Mafia. When did they call you last?
His voice had changed.
Maya heard it. She took a step back. This morning. They said I have 48 hours left. Did they say where they're holding him?
No.
But Adrian. She grabbed his arm again. You can't go after them. That's what I was afraid of. If you show up with guns blazing like the old days, they'll kill him just to hurt you. This has to be. I know. He met her eyes. I'm not that man anymore, Maya. But I'm also not going to let my son die. She searched his face, looking for the monster she'd heard about in whispers. The man who'd built an empire on blood and fear. What she found instead was something more dangerous, a father who'd just discovered what he had to lose. Okay, she said finally. So, what do we do? Adrian looked out at the storm. Somewhere out there, in the dark and the rain, his son was afraid. Alone. Waiting. We find him, Adrian said. And we bring him home. He didn't say the other part, the promise he made to himself as he stared at his son's photograph. And whoever took him will regret they were ever born. Adrian led Maya into the kitchen and pulled out a chair. She sat down heavily, her wet clothes dripping onto the hardwood floor. He grabbed a towel from the bathroom and tossed it to her, then filled the kettle with water. Start from the beginning, he said. Everything. Maya dried her face and hair, wincing when the towel touched her bruised cheek. Claire moved to Portland after she left you. Used her maiden name, Chun. Got a job at a bookstore. I was still in college, but I visited her every few months. And she never mentioned she was pregnant. Adrian's jaw tightened. Not until she was 7 months along. She swore me to secrecy. Maya's hands twisted the towel. She was terrified, Adrian. Not of you personally, of what you represented. The violence. The constant danger. She'd wake up screaming from nightmares about men breaking into the house, about Lucas being used as leverage against you. The kettle whistled. Adrian poured hot water over tea bags, his movements precise and controlled. So she had the baby. Then what? Lucas was born January 15th, 4 years ago. Healthy. Perfect. Maya's voice softened for a moment. Claire was a good mother. She read to him every night, took him to the park, made him laugh, her eyes filled with tears again. But she was always looking over her shoulder, always afraid someone from your old world would find them. And then she died. Adrian set a mug in front of Maya. The grief was still there, buried under years of trying to forget. Claire had been the only person who'd ever seen past the monster he'd become. The only one who'd believed he could be something better. 2 years ago, a drunk driver ran a red light. Maya wrapped her hands around the mug. She died instantly. I was listed as Lucas's guardian in her will, so I took him in. I moved us to Seattle, changed our address 3 times in 2 years. I thought we were safe. But someone found you. 3 days ago. I came home from my nursing shift, and the apartment was destroyed. Furniture overturned, drawers emptied. And Lucas, her voice broke. His favorite stuffed dinosaur was on the floor. He never went anywhere without it. Adrian sat across from her, his mind already working through the angles. Tell me about the men who took him. I never saw them, but they called me 2 hours later from a block number. The voice was male, maybe 30s or 40s. American accent. No specific regional markers. Maya pulled out her phone with shaking hands and played a recording. Adrian listened, his expression unreadable. Hello, Maya. We have something that belongs to you. Or should I say, something that belongs to Adrian Moretti. Funny how Claire thought she could hide his son from the world. Did you really think no one would notice the boy has his father's eyes? A child's cry in the background. Lucas. Adrian's hands clenched. Here's what's going to happen. Claire stole financial records from the Moretti family before she ran. Offshore accounts, shell companies, evidence of money laundering going back 15 years. We know she gave them to you. You're going to deliver those records to us, or the boy dies. You have 5 days. We'll call with instructions. And Maya? If you go to the police, if you contact anyone from the old families, if you so much as whisper about this to anyone, we'll mail you pieces of him. Understand? The recording ended. Adrian's face was carved from stone. Play it again. Maya did. He listened 3 more times, absorbing every detail. The background noise. The echo that suggested a large, empty space. The way the man's voice rose slightly when he mentioned the financial records. He was nervous.
Desperate.
They're not professionals, Adrian said finally. Real kidnappers wouldn't have let you hear Lucas cry. They wouldn't have revealed they know about me. And they definitely wouldn't have given you 5 days. What does that mean? It means they're amateurs trying to score big. Probably a small crew that stumbled onto information about Claire and saw an opportunity. He met her eyes. But that doesn't make them less dangerous. Amateurs panic. They make mistakes. And when they realize you don't have what they want. But I don't have it. Maya's voice rose.
Eve searched everywhere, Adrian.
Claire's apartment, her storage unit, her mother's house in California. If these records exist, I don't know where they are. Adrian stood and paced to the window. Rain still lashed the glass. Claire was smart. If she kept insurance against me, she'd hide it somewhere safe. Somewhere only she knew about. He turned back to Maya. Think. Did she have any special places? Anywhere she went regularly? Anyone she trusted completely? Maya shook her head. She didn't trust anyone. After you, she stopped, realizing what she'd said. It's fine. I know what I did to her. Adrian's voice was flat. But right now, I don't care about the past. I care about finding our son. Our son, Maya repeated quietly. You really mean that? You're going to help. He's my blood. Adrian's green eyes were hard as glass. And nobody takes what's mine. Maya studied him. This was the man Claire had feared, the cold, calculating predator who'd ruled the underworld. But there was something else there too. Something raw and human beneath the ice.
Pain.
And love he'd never had the chance to give. Okay, she said. Where do we start? Adrian checked his watch. 4:30 in the morning. We start by leaving. If they tracked you to Seattle, they might have followed you here. Staying in one place makes us targets. Where are we going?
The mainland.
I still have connections, people who owe me favors, people who know things. He grabbed his keys from the counter. Get changed. There are dry clothes in the guest room upstairs. We leave in 10 minutes. Maya stood, then hesitated. Adrian? Why did you really leave the Mafia? He looked at her for a long moment. Because Claire was right. I was becoming my father. And I promised myself that if I ever had the chance to be something better, I'd take it. His voice dropped. I just never thought that chance would come like this. Maya nodded and headed upstairs. Adrian looked down at the photo of Lucas still clutched in his hand. 4 years old. His son. He'd lost 3 years already. He wasn't going to lose any more. The storm was ending. Dawn was coming. And Adrian Moretti was going back to war. Dawn broke gray and cold over the water. Adrian's private dock stretched out into the Pacific like a wooden finger pointing at nothing. The speedboat bobbed in the waves, covered by a tarp he hadn't touched in 2 years. Maya stood on the dock, her borrowed jacket too big for her frame. She'd changed into dry jeans and a sweater from Adrian's guest room. The bruise on her face looked worse in the daylight, purple and yellow, spreading toward her eye. "We should split up," she said suddenly. "You have connections. You can find them faster without me slowing you down." Adrian was loading supplies into the boat, water bottles, a first aid kit, cash he kept in a safe. He didn't look up.
No.
"Adrian, I'm serious. Every minute we waste." I said no. He straightened, meeting her eyes. "You're the only person Lucas knows. When we find him, he's going to be terrified. He'll need you there." "If we find him," when his voice was steel. Maya wrapped her arms around herself. "You don't understand. Those men, when they called, they said things. Specific things about Lucas. What he was wearing when they took him. How he cried for me." Her voice cracked. "They're watching him suffer, Adrian. And I brought this on him. If I'd been more careful, if I'd moved us somewhere safer." "Stop." Adrian crossed the dock in 3 strides. "This isn't your fault. You did what Claire asked. You protected him for 2 years. These bastards found you because they were looking, not because you made a mistake." "But I did make a mistake. I came here." Maya's laugh was bitter. "What if they followed me? What if showing up at your door is exactly what gets Lucas killed?" Adrian had considered that. The house had security cameras, motion sensors, alarms. Nobody had triggered them. But Maya was right to worry. In his old life, paranoia had kept him alive. "If they followed you, they already know I'm involved," he said. "Running alone won't change that. But together, we have a better chance." "Why?" Maya looked up at him. "Why do you even care? You didn't know he existed until 3 hours ago. You could walk away. Disappear. You've done it before." The accusation hung in the air. Adrian's jaw tightened. "You think I'd abandon my son? I think you abandoned Claire when she needed you most." Maya's voice was quiet but sharp. "She begged you to leave the Mafia. To choose her over the violence. And you chose wrong. So yes, Adrian, I think walking away is exactly what you do when things get hard." The words hit harder than any punch, because they were true. "You're right," Adrian said finally. "I failed Claire. I was a coward who couldn't give up power, and it cost me everything." He looked out at the water. "But I'm not walking away from Lucas.
Not now.
Not ever. So you can either get in the boat and let me help, or you can waste time arguing while our son sits in some warehouse wondering why nobody's coming for him." Our son. Maya heard it again. The possessive. The claim. She studied Adrian's face. The hard lines, the scars, the green eyes that looked like Lucas's. This was a dangerous man. A killer. Everything Claire had run from. But he was also Lucas's father. And right now, dangerous was exactly what they needed.
"Fine," she said.
"But I have conditions." Adrian raised an eyebrow.
"No killing."
"I don't care what happens or who gets in our way. You don't kill anyone. Lucas doesn't need a murderer for a father." "Agreed. And when this is over, you don't try to take him from me. I'm his legal guardian. I raised him. You don't get to swoop in and play daddy just because you helped rescue him." That one hurt. Adrian's expression didn't change, but Maya saw something flicker in his eyes.
Loss.
Longing. "I won't take him from you," Adrian said quietly. "But I want to be part of his life. however small. I want him to know I exist. Maya hesitated, then nodded. Okay. But Lucas decides how much contact he wants. Not you. Not me. Him. Deal. They shook hands. Her fingers were small and cold in his. Adrian pulled the tarp off the speedboat. It was a sleek 30-footer, built for speed and painted dark gray. He'd used it to run weapons up the coast in the old days. Now it was just gathering dust. Can this thing even still run? Maya asked. Only one way to find out. Adrian climbed in and turned the key. The engine coughed, sputtered, then roared to life. He smiled grimly. Like riding a bike. Maya climbed in, settling onto the passenger seat. The sun was rising behind them, painting the water gold and orange. Under different circumstances, it might have been beautiful. Where are we going? She asked as Adrian untied the mooring lines. Old Harbor District, south of Seattle. He pushed off from the dock, and the boat lurched forward. I know someone there, a guy named Ricky Delgado. He used to run information for my family. If anyone's heard chatter about a kidnapped kid, it'll be him. Can we trust him?
No.
But he owes me 3 favors, and he's too smart to cross me. Adrian opened the throttle, and the boat leaped across the water. Wind whipped Maya's hair back. He'll talk. Maya gripped the seat as they sped toward the mainland. Behind them, Adrian's empty manor grew smaller and smaller until it disappeared completely. There was no going back now. They were committed. And somewhere ahead, in the labyrinth of docks and warehouses and criminal networks Adrian had once ruled, a 4-year-old boy was waiting for parents he'd never met to save him. Hold on, Adrian said, his eyes fixed on the horizon. This is going to get rough. Maya didn't know if he meant the boat ride or everything that was coming. Probably both. The old harbor district smelled like rust and rotting fish. Adrian tied the boat to a sagging pier behind a shuttered cannery, away from the main docks where cameras and harbor patrol might spot them. The morning sun was higher now, burning off the fog, but the district remained gray and lifeless. Stay close, Adrian said, helping Maya onto the pier. And let me do the talking. They walked through a maze of warehouses and shipping containers. Forklifts sat abandoned. Seagulls fought over scraps. A few workers watched them pass, then looked away quickly, the kind of neighborhood where questions got you hurt. Adrian led her to a corrugated metal building with no sign. He knocked twice, paused, then knocked 3 more times. The door cracked open. A man's face appeared, late 50s, weathered skin, suspicious eyes.
We're closed, he said.
Ricky, Adrian's voice was calm. It's me. The man's eyes widened.
Jesus Christ.
Moretti. He glanced past Adrian at Maya, then quickly scanned the street. You've got some nerve showing up here. You know there's people who'd pay good money to know where you are? Then it's a good thing you're not one of them. Adrian's smile didn't reach his eyes. I need information. 5 minutes. Ricky Delgado hesitated, then opened the door wider. 5 minutes. Then you're gone. Inside, the building was one large room filled with workbenches and tools. Ricky was a dock worker officially, but everyone knew he dealt in something more valuable than cargo, information. He'd been Adrian's eyes and ears in the harbor for years. Who's the girl? Ricky asked, closing the door. Family, Adrian said. Ricky, I need to know if you've heard anything about a kidnapping. A 4-year-old boy, taken 3 days ago in Seattle. Ricky's face went carefully blank. I don't know nothing about kidnappings. I move freight, Moretti. That's it. Cut the bullshit. Adrian stepped closer. A child is missing. My child. And I know every criminal operation within 200 miles passes through this harbor eventually. So either you've heard something, or you know someone who has. Ricky's eyes darted to Maya. She saw recognition flicker across his face. He knew something. Tell him, Maya said quietly.
Please.
He's just a little boy. Ricky rubbed his face. Look, I heard something yesterday. Couple guys came through, moving cargo late at night when they shouldn't have been. They were nervous. Jumpy. One of them had scratches on his face, like a kid had fought back. Adrian's hands clenched. What were they moving? I don't know. But I heard them mention a name, Santoro. They were supposed to deliver something to him. Santoro? Adrian's voice went cold. Marco Santoro? You know him? Unfortunately, Adrian turned to Maya. Marco Santoro runs a crew out of Tacoma. Small-time extortion loan sharking. I shut down his father's operations 6 years ago. Destroyed their whole network. So this is revenge? Maya's voice rose. They took Lucas to get back at you? Looks that way. Moretti, listen. Ricky backed up. I gave you what I know. We're square now, right? My debt's paid. Where did they take the cargo? I don't know, I swear. They didn't say. The window exploded inward. Glass shattered across the floor. Adrian grabbed Maya and pulled her down behind a workbench as 2 men burst through the door, guns drawn. Nobody moved. The first man was young, maybe 25, with a shaved head and wild eyes. The second was older, calmer, pointing his weapon directly at Adrian. Ricky threw up his hands. Hey, I don't want trouble. Shut up. The older gunman's eyes never left Adrian. Adrian Moretti. Been a long time. Adrian recognized him. Danny Corsetti, one of Santoro's enforcers.
Danny.
Still taking orders from that punk Marco. Marco's calling the shots now. And he heard you might come looking around, Danny smiled. Funny thing about putting a bullet in a man's father. The son tends to remember. Where's my son? Adrian's voice was deadly quiet. Your son? Danny laughed. That's rich. You don't give a damn about that kid. This is just about your pride, isn't it? Can't stand someone taking something from the great Adrian Moretti. Adrian started to rise, but Maya grabbed his arm. Don't. Listen to the lady. Adrian. Danny gestured with his gun. Marco wants you to know the kid's fine.
For now.
But if you keep poking around, if you bring cops or call in old favors, he made a throat-cutting gesture. Kid becomes a liability. Marco's making a mistake, Adrian said. No, you made the mistake. You should have stayed retired. Danny motioned to his partner. We're taking you both. Marco wants to have a conversation. The younger gunman moved forward. Adrian waited until he was close, too close. Then he moved. It happened in 3 seconds. Adrian grabbed the young man's wrist, twisted hard, and slammed his gun hand against the workbench. The weapon clattered to the floor. An elbow to the face, and the man dropped, unconscious. Danny fired, but Adrian was already moving. He dove behind a metal drum as bullets sparked off steel. Stay down, Adrian shouted to Maya and Ricky. Danny emptied his clip, then reached for another magazine. Adrian didn't give him the chance. He threw a wrench that caught Danny in the shoulder. The man stumbled back, and Adrian was on him. A quick strike to the wrist, and Danny's gun fell. A punch to the solar plexus. Another to the jaw. Danny crumpled. Adrian stood over both men, breathing hard. He hadn't killed them. That was progress. Maya emerged from behind the workbench, her face pale. Oh my God. Ricky, you got rope? Adrian asked. Ricky nodded mutely and produced zip ties from a drawer. Together, they bound both men's hands and feet. Adrian crouched beside Danny, who was groaning. Tell Marco I'm coming. Tell him if he hurts my son, there won't be a place on earth he can hide. Danny spat blood. You're a dead man, Moretti. Adrian searched Danny's pockets and found a phone. He pocketed it. We'll see. Outside, they heard sirens in the distance. Someone had called the cops. We need to move, Adrian said. Ricky, forget you saw us. Ricky was already backing away. I don't know nothing. Never did. Adrian took Maya's hand and pulled her toward the back exit. They ran through alleys and side streets, putting distance between themselves and the warehouse. Finally, they stopped in the shadow of a container stack, both breathing hard. You could have killed them, Maya said. I know. But you didn't. Adrian looked at her. I told you. I'm not that man anymore. Maya nodded slowly. Then she surprised him by squeezing his hand. Thank you.
They had a lead now.
A name.
Marco Santoro.
And somewhere in the city, a 4-year-old boy was waiting. They took a taxi from the Harbor District, Adrian paying cash, and giving an address 3 blocks from their actual destination. He'd learned long ago that trails were easiest to follow when they led straight to the door. Maya was silent during the ride, staring out the window, her hands twisted in her lap. Where are we going? She asked as they walked the final blocks through a rundown neighborhood of apartment buildings with peeling paint and chain-link fences. You said you kept Lucas in a safe house, Adrian replied. I need to see it.
Why?
I already searched it. There's nothing there. Maybe. But crime scenes talk if you know how to listen, he glanced at her. And I need to understand who we're dealing with, how they operate, what they want. Maya led him to a 3-story walk-up on a street corner. Graffiti covered the lower walls. A broken shopping cart lay on its side near the entrance. 3rd floor, Maya said. I paid 6 months' rent in cash under a fake name. Nobody knew we were there. Except someone did. They climbed the stairs. The hallway smelled like cigarettes and boiled cabbage. Maya's hands shook as she unlocked the door. The apartment had been destroyed. Adrian stepped inside carefully, his eyes cataloging every detail. The small living room's furniture was overturned, a cheap couch gutted, cushions torn open. The kitchenette drawers hung open, contents dumped on the floor. In the corner, a child-sized table lay on its side, crayons scattered like confetti. Maya made a small sound in her throat. Adrian moved deeper into the apartment. The bedroom was worse. The mattress had been slashed, stuffing everywhere. Children's clothes pulled from drawers and thrown across the room. Books with their spines broken. And in the center of the floor, a stuffed green dinosaur. Maya picked it up with shaking hands.
Rex.
Lucas named him Rex. She held the toy against her chest. He slept with this every night. He must have been so scared without it. Adrian knelt beside the bed, examining the floor. Boot prints in the dust. 2 sets, both large. Size 11 and 12, he estimated. Heavy treads, work boots, not dress shoes. These weren't professional hitmen. Just thugs. He moved to the window. The lock was broken, jimmied open with a crowbar or something similar. They'd come in this way, probably while Maya was at work. Lucas would have been alone, or with a babysitter. Who was watching him when they took him? Adrian asked. Mrs. Kim from downstairs. She's 70, watches kids for extra money. Maya's voice was hollow. I came home and found her tied to a chair, tape over her mouth. She was hysterical. Said 2 men in masks broke in, tied her up and took Lucas. She couldn't even call the police because they took her phone. Adrian examined the windowsill. Something had been scratched into the paint, rough lines forming a symbol. A snake coiled around a knife. His blood went cold.
Maya.
Look at this. She came over, still clutching the dinosaur. What is it? This mark, Adrian traced it with his finger. It's a calling card. The Velino crew. The who? Velino means venom in Italian. They were a mid-level crew that operated out of Portland about 7 years ago. Arms dealing mostly. They tried to expand into my territory, his jaw tightened. I shut them down.
Hard.
Seized their weapons shipments, burned their warehouse, and turned their boss, Sal Velino, over to the FBI. And now they want revenge. Not just revenge. They want to humiliate me. Adrian stood, his mind racing. Marco Santoro worked for the Velino crew before I destroyed them. After Sal went to prison, the operation fell apart. Marco must have rebuilt it, taken over what was left. Maya's face went pale. So they've been planning this for years. They found out about Claire, about Lucas, and they waited for the perfect moment. Looks that way. Adrian pulled out the phone he'd taken from Danny Corsetti. He scrolled through the messages. Most were in code, but one stood out. It was from a number labeled MS. Package secure. Moretti knows. He'll come. Be ready. And below it a response. Good. Let him come. I want to see his face when he realizes he can't save the kid. Adrian's hands clenched around the phone. Maya saw his expression and took a step back. Adrian, they're playing with us, he said quietly. They want me angry, reckless. They want me to come charging in so they can spring whatever trap they've set. He looked at her. That's why they sent those men to the harbor. Not to capture us, to provoke us. So, what do we do? Adrian studied the apartment again. The violence of the search. The deliberate cruelty of leaving Lucas's toy behind where Maya would find it. These men wanted them scared and desperate. But they'd made a mistake. They searched this place looking for the financial records, Adrian said. Which means they don't have them. And if they don't have them, then those records are still hidden somewhere. Which gives us leverage. But I told you, I don't know where Claire hid them. Maybe not consciously. Adrian walked to the small bookshelf in the corner. Children's books, mostly. Where the wild things are. The very hungry caterpillar.
Good night, Moon.
He pulled one out. Dinosaurs Before Dark. A magic treehouse book. Inside the cover, in neat handwriting, for Lucas.
Love always, Mom.
Adrian flipped through the pages. Nothing hidden inside. He tried another book. Then another. Maya watched him, confused. Adrian, what are you?
He stopped.
In a worn copy of The Velveteen Rabbit, something fell out. A business card. What is that? Maya asked. Adrian picked it up. It was old, the edges frayed. Morrison's Self-Storage. Unit 247. Portland, Oregon. On the back, in Claire's handwriting, in case of emergency. They stared at each other. Portland, Maya whispered. Claire lived in Portland before she died. She must have. She kept a storage unit, Adrian finished. Separate from the one you already searched.
Hidden.
And that's where the records are. For the first time since Maya had appeared on his doorstep, Adrian saw hope flicker in her eyes. If we have the records, we have leverage, she said. We can trade them for Lucas. Maybe. Adrian pocketed the card. But first we need to get to Portland and confirm they're actually there. It's a 4-hour drive. Maya looked around the destroyed apartment one last time. The broken toys. The scattered clothes. The life she'd tried to build for Lucas, torn apart. Let's go, she said. They drove south in a car Adrian hot-wired from a parking garage, a nondescript Honda that wouldn't draw attention. Maya sat in the passenger seat, still clutching Lucas's dinosaur, staring out at the highway stretching endlessly ahead. By the time they reached the outskirts of Portland, the sun was setting. Adrian's hands ached from gripping the steering wheel. They'd driven in near silence for hours, both lost in their own thoughts. We need to stop, Adrian said finally. Get food. Rest for a few hours. We don't have time. We're exhausted. We're running on adrenaline and fear, and that makes us sloppy. He took an exit toward a cluster of motels and gas stations. A few hours won't make a difference. The storage facility won't open until morning anyway. Maya wanted to argue, but she was bone-tired.
Her body ached.
The bruise on her face throbbed. Adrian pulled into a roadside motel, the kind with peeling paint and a flickering neon sign that read vacancy in pink letters. He paid cash for a room on the ground floor, away from the road. Inside, the room was exactly what you'd expect. 2 double beds with faded floral bedspreads. A TV bolted to the dresser. A bathroom with cracked tile and thin towels. But it was clean enough and, more importantly, anonymous. Adrian locked the door and drew the curtains. Maya sat on the edge of one bed, still holding the dinosaur. You should eat something, Adrian said, pulling protein bars and water bottles from a bag he'd bought at a gas station. I'm not hungry, Maya. I said I'm not hungry. Her voice broke. She threw the dinosaur across the room. It hit the wall and slumped to the floor. God, what am I doing? Lucas is out there, terrified, and I'm sitting in a motel room eating protein bars like we're on some kind of road trip. Adrian said nothing. He recognized this moment, the breaking point, when the fear and guilt became too much to carry. Maya buried her face in her hands. This is my fault. All of it. If I'd been more careful, if I'd seen them watching us, If I'd never taken him to Seattle. Stop, Adrian said quietly. He trusted me. Tears streamed down her face. He called me Annie Mae and he trusted me to keep him safe. And I failed. Just like I failed Claire. How did you fail, Claire? Maya looked up, her eyes red and swollen. The night she died.
She called me.
She was scared, said she thought someone was following her. Asked me to come stay with her for a few days. But I was studying for finals, and I told her she was being paranoid. I told her everything was fine. Her voice dropped to a whisper. 12 hours later, she was dead. That was an accident. A drunk driver. Was it? Maya's laugh was bitter. Or was it the Valino crew? Tying up loose ends? Maybe they'd already found her. Maybe they killed her and made it look like an accident. Adrian sat down on the opposite bed, processing this. If they'd killed Claire, they would have searched her apartment then. Taken records. They wouldn't have waited 2 years. Unless they didn't know about the records until later. Unless they only recently figured out Claire had stolen them. Maya wiped her eyes. I don't know, Adrian. I don't know anything anymore except that I've spent 4 years trying to protect Lucas, and in the end, I couldn't. Adrian leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. You want to know what I think? Not really. I think you're the bravest person I've met. He met her eyes. Claire asked you to raise her son and keep him hidden from a world you didn't understand. You were what, 23 when she died? 24. 24 years old, and you became a mother overnight. You moved 3 times. Changed your name. Worked night shifts so you could be with him during the day. You kept him safe for 2 years from people who were actively looking for him. His voice softened. You didn't fail Lucas, Maya. You gave him 2 years of love and safety that he wouldn't have had otherwise. Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. But it wasn't enough. No, Adrian agreed. It wasn't. Because the world is full of men like Marco Santoro who take and destroy and don't care who gets hurt. But that's not your fault. That's on them. And it's on me. You didn't know Lucas existed. But I knew what I was. I knew the enemies I'd made, the lives I'd destroyed. Adrian's hands clenched into fists. Claire was right to run. Right to hide Lucas from me. Because look what happened the moment anyone connected him to my name. They turned him into a weapon. They sat in silence for a long moment. Can I ask you something? Maya said finally.
Yeah.
When you were in the Mafia, did you kill people? Adrian didn't flinch. Yes. How many? I don't know. I stopped counting after the first dozen. He looked at his hands. Some of them deserved it. Some of them were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And some of them haunt me every night when I try to sleep. Maya studied his face. Is that why you left?
Partly.
But mostly I left because I looked in the mirror one day and saw my father staring back. And I realized if I didn't walk away, I'd end up just like him, alone, paranoid, dead before 50 with a dozen bullets in my back. He met her eyes. Claire leaving me was the wake-up call I needed. I just wish I'd woken up sooner. She loved you, you know, Maya said softly. Even after everything. She kept a photo of you in her wallet. Never showed it to Lucas, but she kept it. Something cracked in Adrian's chest. Did she ever say anything about me? To Lucas? She told him his father was gone. That he'd loved them both, but couldn't be with them. Maya's voice was gentle. She never told him you were a bad man, Adrian. She just told him you were complicated. Adrian turned away so Maya wouldn't see the tears in his eyes. I would have changed for him. If I'd known. I would have left everything behind. I believe you. He stood abruptly, needing to move. Get some sleep. We'll hit the storage facility first thing in the morning. What about you? I'm going to make some calls. See if I can find out where Marco's holding Lucas. He grabbed the phone he'd taken from Danny Corsetti. Lock the door behind me. Don't open it for anyone but me. Adrian. He stopped at the door. Thank you, Maya said. For not giving up on him. Adrian looked back at her. He's my son. I'm never giving up on him. Outside, the night was cold and clear. Adrian walked to the edge of the parking lot and dialed a number he'd sworn he'd never call again. It rang 3 times before a gruff voice answered. Yeah. Sal, Adrian said. It's me. I need to talk about your son. There was a long pause. Then, Moretti. I heard you crawled out of retirement. Heard Marco's got something you want. He has my son. Another pause. That's unfortunate. But it's got nothing to do with me. I'm locked up, remember? Thanks to you. I can change that, Adrian said quietly. I can make calls. Get your sentence reduced. Maybe even get you out in 5 years instead of 15. But I need information, and I need it now. Sal Volino laughed. A harsh sound. You must really love that kid. What's it worth to you, Moretti? Adrian stared up at the stars. Everything. Then we'd better talk. The gambling den was hidden beneath a Chinese restaurant in downtown Portland. Adrian led Maya down a narrow alley, past dumpsters and stray cats, to a steel door with no handle. He knocked 4 times, a pattern Sal Volino had given him over the phone. A slot opened. Eyes peered out. We're here to see Vincent, Adrian said. Sal sent us. The door opened. A massive man in a leather jacket gestured them inside. They descended a concrete stairwell that smelled like mildew and cigarette smoke. Music and voices grew louder with each step. The basement was larger than Adrian expected, a sprawling room filled with card tables, slot machines, and desperate people losing money they didn't have. Smoke hung in the air like fog. Women in short dresses carried drinks. Men in expensive suits sat in corner booths, watching everything. This was the Volino crew's new operation. Smaller than before, but still profitable. Stay close, Adrian murmured to Maya. Don't make eye contact with anyone. They crossed the floor toward a back room guarded by 2 men with obvious bulges under their jackets. One of them, a lieutenant with slicked back hair and a scar across his chin, stepped forward. Vincent Caruso? Adrian asked. Who's asking? Adrian Moretti. Sal said you'd talk to me. Vincent's eyes narrowed. You've got balls showing up here, Moretti. Half the guys in this room lost everything because of you.
I'm aware.
But I'm not here to cause trouble. I just need information. Yeah? What makes you think I'm giving it? Because Sal called you 20 minutes ago and told you to cooperate. And because I'm offering you something you want, Adrian pulled out his phone and showed Vincent a photo, documents from the storage unit he and Maya had retrieved that morning. Bank records.
Wire transfers.
Offshore accounts. Claire Moretti stole these from my old family's accountant 7 years ago. Names, dates, transactions. Everything the FBI would need to dismantle what's left of the Moretti organization. Vincent's eyes widened. That's worth millions to the right buyer. Or to anyone who wants leverage over my former associates. Adrian pocketed the phone. Marco's planning to sell them, isn't he? That's why he took my son. He needs these records to rebuild the Volino crew's reputation. Prove he's worthy of the old family's respect. Vincent said nothing, but his silence was confirmation enough. Here's my offer, Adrian continued. Tell me where Marco's holding my son, and I'll give you the records. Not Marco, you. You can sell them, use them, burn them. I don't care. All I want is my boy. And what's to stop Marco from killing the kid the moment he realizes you've got what he wants? That's my problem, not yours. Vincent studied Adrian for a long moment. Then he glanced at Maya, still holding the stuffed dinosaur. That the kid's toy. Maya nodded, her voice steady despite her fear. His name is Lucas. He's 4 years old. He likes dinosaurs and mac and cheese and bedtime stories. And he's done nothing to deserve this. Something flickered across Vincent's face. Maybe regret. Maybe just discomfort. Look, I'm not a monster. I don't like kids being involved in crew business. But Marco, he's got something to prove. He's obsessed with making you suffer. Where's Lucas? Adrian's voice was ice. Vincent hesitated. Then he sighed. The old textile factory. Down by the docks. Marco's been using it as a staging ground for the past 6 months. He pulled out a piece of paper and sketched a rough map. But Moretti, you should know, it's a trap. Marco wants you to come. He's got men stationed all around the building. The moment you show up, they'll pin you down and kill you. Then they'll sell the records themselves. How many men? 8, maybe 10. All armed. Vincent handed over the map. You're walking into a slaughter. Adrian studied the map, memorizing the layout. What about Lucas? Where exactly is he being held? Second floor. Northwest corner. But there's only one staircase up, and it's covered. Vincent's expression was grim. You can't get to him without going through Marco's entire crew. Maya's face had gone pale. There has to be another way. A back entrance, a window. There's loading doors on the east side, Vincent said. But they're chained shut from the inside. You'd need bolt cutters and 10 minutes to get through, and Marco's guys patrol every 20 minutes. Adrian folded the map and tucked it into his jacket. When's the exchange supposed to happen? Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Marco sent word to your ex-wife's sister. Vincent looked at Maya. He told you to come to the old shipping port, right? That's the misdirection. He's not there. He's at the factory, waiting for Moretti to figure it out and come running. So the shipping port message was bait. To make you think you're one step ahead, when really you're walking straight into his hands. Vincent shook his head. Marco's not the smartest guy, but he learned from watching his old man die in prison. He's careful now. Paranoid. Adrian was quiet for a moment, calculating. Then he met Vincent's eyes. If I give you these records after I get Lucas, can you guarantee safe passage out of Portland? For my son and Maya. I can try. But Marco's going to be pissed when he realizes you played him. Let him be pissed. I'll be long gone. Adrian pulled out his phone and sent Vincent a sample document, just enough to prove he really had them. That's your down payment. The rest when my son is safe. Vincent looked at the image, then nodded slowly.
Okay.
But Moretti? You're gonna need more than just courage to get that kid out alive. You're gonna need a miracle. I don't believe in miracles, Adrian said. I believe in planning. They left the gambling den the same way they'd entered, through the steel door, up the stairs, into the alley. The night air felt clean after the smoke and desperation below. Maya grabbed Adrian's arm. This is insane. He said there's 8 to 10 armed men. You can't fight them all. I'm not going to fight them. I'm going to outsmart them. Adrian looked at his watch. We've got 12 hours before Marco expects us at the fake location. That gives us time. Time for what? To stack the odds in our favor, he started walking toward the car. I said no killing, and I meant it. But I never said anything about not evening the playing field. Maya hurried after him. What are you planning? Adrian's smile was cold and calculating, the expression of a man who'd built an empire on strategy and ruthlessness. Something Marco won't see coming, he said. Because he thinks I'm the same man I was 7 years ago. Violent. Impulsive. Predictable. Aren't you? Adrian stopped and looked at her. 7 years ago, I would have stormed that factory with guns blazing and gotten everyone killed.
Now.
He opened the car door. Now I'm a father. And fathers don't take unnecessary risks with their children's lives. They drove into the night, toward the textile factory where Lucas waited. Toward the trap Marco Santoro had so carefully laid. And toward a confrontation that would test everything Adrian had become since leaving the Mafia behind. The textile factory loomed against the dawn sky like a sleeping giant. Adrian parked the car 3 blocks away, behind an abandoned warehouse. Through binoculars, he studied the building, 5 stories of crumbling brick and broken windows, surrounded by a chain-link fence. I count 4 guards outside, he murmured. 2 at the main entrance, 1 on the east side, 1 patrolling the perimeter. Maya sat beside him, her hands trembling. And how many inside? Vincent said 8 to 10 total, so maybe 4 to 6 more inside. Adrian lowered the binoculars. But something's wrong. What do you mean? This is too exposed. Marco's paranoid. He wouldn't keep Lucas somewhere this obvious unless... Adrian's eyes narrowed. Unless he wants us to see it. You think it's the trap Vincent warned us about? I think it's worse than that. Adrian started the car. I think Vincent was lying. But he gave you the map, told you where Lucas was.
Exactly.
Too easy. Too convenient. Adrian pulled away from the curb. Salvolino might have told Vincent to cooperate, But that doesn't mean Vincent's loyal to me. He's loyal to the Volino crew. And if Marco's second in command, Vincent probably told Marco we were coming. Maya's face went white. So they're waiting for us. Probably have been since last night. Adrian drove past the factory, scanning the surrounding buildings. But they made a mistake. They assumed I'd come straight here, desperate and stupid. Instead, we're 12 hours early, and now I know it's a setup. So what do we do? If Lucas isn't here— I didn't say he isn't here. Marco needs him close for leverage. But I bet the factory's a kill box, guards, ambush positions, the works. They're waiting for us to walk in so they can take us both. Adrian turned down a side street. We need a different approach. He parked near a convenience store and pulled out the phone he'd taken from Danny Corsetti. Scrolling through the messages, he found what he was looking for: a conversation between Danny and someone labeled VC. Moretti took the bait. He'll be at the factory by dawn. And response: good. Marco's moving the package to secondary location, just in case. Tell him the factory's clean. Adrian showed Maya the screen. Package means Lucas. They moved him. Where? Secondary location. Adrian kept scrolling. Another message, this one with an address: 342 Riverside Drive. Boat warehouse. Stay until Marco gives all clear. Maya read it and grabbed Adrian's arm. That's only 2 miles from here. If they moved him recently, then we might still have a chance. Adrian started the car again. But we need to move fast. Once Marco realizes we didn't show up at the factory, he'll know something's wrong. They drove through empty streets as the sun rose higher. Riverside Drive ran along the Willamette River. Old warehouses and boat repair shops, most of them abandoned or barely functioning. Number 342 was a squat concrete building with Morrison Boat Storage painted in faded letters above the door. A single van sat in the parking lot. Adrian parked across the street, behind a line of rusted shipping containers. Stay here. Like hell, Maya opened her door. If Lucas is in there, he'll be terrified. He needs to see me. Maya, if this goes wrong, then I want to be there for my nephew. End of discussion. Her jaw was set, her eyes fierce. Adrian recognized that look. It was the same determination that had brought her to his door in the storm. He nodded. Okay, but you follow my lead. No matter what happens. They approached the warehouse from the side, using parked vehicles for cover. The building had few windows, most of them high up and grimy. Adrian tried the side door, locked. Around back, he whispered. The rear entrance was secured with a chain, but the lock was cheap. Adrian used a rock to smash it. The chain fell away with barely a sound. Inside, the warehouse was dim and cavernous. Boats in various states of repair sat on trailers. Tools hung on walls. The smell of motor oil and old wood filled the air. And voices. 2 men, talking somewhere deeper in the building. Adrian gestured for Maya to stay low. They crept forward between boats, using them for cover. The voices grew clearer. Hate babysitting duty. Kid won't stop crying. Marco said keep him quiet. You want to explain to the boss why the package is damaged. Kid's fine. Just scared. Can't blame him. Adrian peered around a boat hull. 2 men sat at a card table near the front office, playing poker. One was young, maybe 30. The other older, with a beer gut and thinning hair. Both had guns on the table. And behind them, visible through the office window, a small figure curled up on a cot. Lucas. Maya saw him and made a small sound. Adrian grabbed her hand, squeezing hard.
Not yet.
He scanned the warehouse, looking for options. The office had only one door, visible from where the guard sat. The windows were too small to climb through. A direct assault would alert them, and they'd use Lucas as a shield. Adrian needed a distraction. He spotted it, a boat motor on a workbench near the far wall, connected to a battery charger. He signaled Maya to wait, then crept along the wall. Reaching the workbench, he found what he needed, a wrench and a metal container of gasoline. He worked quietly, disconnecting wires, creating a short circuit. Then he poured gasoline near the battery charger and used the wrench to spark the wires. Smoke began to rise. "You smell that?" one guard said. "What?" "Smoke. Something's Jesus." The younger guard jumped up as flames suddenly erupted from the workbench. "Fire! Get the extinguisher." Both men ran toward the growing blaze, leaving the office unguarded. Adrian sprinted to the office door. It was locked from the outside, a simple deadbolt. He kicked it hard.
Once. Twice.
The frame splintered, and the door flew open. Lucas was on the cot, his eyes huge and terrified. He saw Maya and let out a sob. "Auntie May." Maya rushed past Adrian and scooped the boy into her arms. "I've got you, baby. I've got you. We need to move." Adrian pulled them toward the back exit. But they'd been heard. One of the guards appeared, gun raised. "Stop right there." Adrian stepped in front of Maya and Lucas. "Let them go. Your fight's with me." The guard hesitated, and that hesitation was all Adrian needed. He grabbed a piece of lumber from a nearby workbench and swung hard. The wood connected with the guard's wrist. The gun clattered away. Adrian followed with a punch that dropped the man. The second guard appeared, weapon drawn. "Don't move." Adrian raised his hands. Behind him, Maya clutched Lucas, the boy's face buried in her shoulder. "Put the gun down," the guard said. "Marco wants you alive, but he didn't say anything about the woman and kid. I'll shoot them right now unless—" A loud crack echoed through the warehouse. The guard staggered, looking down at his chest in confusion.
He fell.
Adrian spun around. Maya was holding the first guard's dropped weapon, her hands shaking violently. She'd fired without thinking, without aiming, pure survival instinct. "Oh God," she whispered. "I didn't mean to, is he?" Adrian checked the fallen man. "He's breathing." "You hit his shoulder." He took the gun gently from her hands. "You did what you had to do." Lucas was crying, terrified by the gunshot. Maya held him tighter. "Show, baby. It's okay. We're going home." Adrian grabbed her arm. "We need to go."
Now.
Before. The front doors burst open. 3 more men rushed in, weapons drawn. Adrian's heart sank. The trap hadn't been at the factory. It had been here all along. And they'd walked right into it. Adrian shoved Maya and Lucas behind a boat trailer. "Stay down." Bullets sparked off metal. Glass shattered. Adrian fired back twice, warning shots, not kill shots, forcing the 3 men to take cover near the entrance. "We've got you boxed in more, Eddie," one of them shouted. "Marco's on his way. He wants to watch you die." Adrian's mind raced. The back exit was 30 feet away, but they'd never make it across the open floor. The office was no good, no other way out. They were pinned. Lucas was sobbing. Maya held him close, whispering reassurances that sounded hollow even to her. Adrian checked the gun's magazine. 4 bullets left. Against 3 armed men, with more coming. The math didn't work. "Listen to me," he said quietly to Maya. "When I draw their fire, you run for that back door. Don't look back. Don't wait for me. Just get Lucas out." "Adrián, no." "There's a marina 2 blocks south. Steal a boat. Get across the river. Find a police station." He pressed the storage unit key into her hand. "Use the records as leverage. Make a deal. Witness protection for you and Lucas. I'm not leaving you. You have to." Adrian looked at Lucas, his son's tear-streaked face, his mother's eyes, his own features in miniature. 4 years old. Terrified. Innocent. "He needs you alive more than he needs me." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "He needs his father."
No.
"He needs to survive." Adrian's voice was firm. "I've lived my whole life surrounded by violence. I've made my choices. But Lucas? He deserves better than this. Better than me." "Adrian." On 3. 1. 2-inch. A voice cut through the warehouse. "Nobody move." Adrian froze. A man stepped through the front entrance, flanked by 2 bodyguards. He was mid-40s, stocky, with slicked back hair and a suit that probably cost more than most people's cars. His eyes found Adrian and lit up with pure hatred.
Marco Santoro.
Adrian Moretti, the legend. The ghost, Marco smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. 7 years I've been planning this moment. 7 years since you destroyed my father's operation and left my family with nothing. Adrian stood slowly, keeping himself between Marco and his family. Your father was selling weapons to terrorists, Marco. He got what he deserved. He got a life sentence because you handed him to the FBI on a silver platter. Marco's voice echoed through the warehouse. You know what it's like, watching your father rot in prison? Watching your mother die of shame? Losing everything because one man decided to play hero? I wasn't playing hero. I was protecting my territory. You were protecting your ego.
Marco stepped closer.
The great Adrian Moretti, too good for the arms trade. Too principled to get his hands really dirty. But you had no problem burning everything my family built. Adrian said nothing. Because Marco was right. He destroyed the Volino operation not for moral reasons, but for business ones. They'd threatened his empire, so he'd eliminated them.
Simple as that.
And now look at you, Marco continued. Retired. Alone. Pretending you're not the monster you've always been. His eyes shifted to Maya and Lucas. But that little boy proves you can't escape what you are, doesn't it? Your blood is poison, Moretti. Everything you touch dies. Let them go, Marco. This is between us. Oh, I will. After you give me what I want, Marco held out his hand. The financial records. Claire's insurance policy. Hand them over, and I'll let the woman and boy walk out of here. And me? Marco's smile widened. You? You're going to pay for what you did to my family. Slowly, Adrian reached into his jacket. Marco's men tensed, weapons rising. Adrian pulled out his phone and tossed it to Marco. Everything's on there. Account numbers, wire transfers, names. Enough to bury half the mob families in the Northeast. Adrian's voice was steady. Now, let them go. Marco scrolled through the files, his eyes widening. This is everything. He looked up, suspicious. Why would you just hand this over? Because that boy is worth more than any amount of money or leverage. Adrian met his eyes. Because unlike you, Marco, I know what actually matters. For a moment, something flickered across Marco's face.
Doubt.
Maybe even respect. Then it was gone. How touching. Marco pocketed the phone. But here's the problem, Moretti. I don't trust you. For all I know, these files are fake. Or you've got copies. Or this is some elaborate trap. He gestured to his men. So here's what's going to happen. You're coming with us. And if these files check out, if I can verify they're real and you haven't already sent them to the FBI, then maybe I'll let your family live. That wasn't the deal. I'm changing the deal. Marco's voice turned cold. Take him. 2 men moved forward. Adrian's hand moved toward his gun. Wait. Maya's voice rang out. She stood, pushing Lucas behind her. Adrian doesn't have copies.
Ido.
Everyone turned to stare at her. What? Adrian said. Maya's voice was steady now, clear. While you were driving, I uploaded everything to a cloud server. Time-delayed email, set to send to the FBI, the Justice Department, and the New York Times in exactly. She checked her phone. 6 hours. Unless I enter a password to stop it. Marco's face darkened. You're bluffing. Try me. Maya met his gaze without flinching. Kill us, and those files go public. You'll have every law enforcement agency in the country hunting you. The mafia families whose names are in those files will put bounties on your head. You'll be dead within a week. The warehouse went silent. Marco stared at her, calculating. Then he started laughing. You've got guts, lady. I'll give you that. He looked at Adrian. Guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Your ex-wife was smart too. What's your point, Marco? My point is, we're at an impasse. Marco holstered his weapon. I can't kill you without those files going public. You can't kill me without getting yourselves killed. So, we need to negotiate.
I'm listening.
Marco walked to the office and leaned against the doorframe. Here's my proposal. You and I, Moretti. 1-on-1.
No guns. No backup.
We settle this the old-fashioned way. You win, you all walk out of here alive, and I'll even give you a head start before I come looking for revenge. I win, he shrugged. Well, you won't be around to care. And them? Adrian gestured to Maya and Lucas. They wait here with my men. Clock keeps ticking on that email. When we're done, the woman enters her password, and everyone goes their separate ways. Marco's smile was sharp. Unless you're afraid, Moretti. Unless retirement's made you soft. Adrian looked at Maya. She shook her head frantically.
Don't.
It's a trap. Everything's a trap. Adrian turned back to Marco.
Fine.
You want to settle this? Let's settle it. Adrian, please. Maya's voice broke. But Adrian was already walking toward Marco, leaving his gun on the ground behind him. Because he'd realized something in that moment. The only way to save his family was to stop being the man who'd created enemies like Marco Santoro in the first place. And sometimes that meant paying for your sins. Marco led Adrian out through a side door to a loading dock overlooking the river. Morning mist hung over the water. The concrete platform was empty except for shipping crates stacked along one wall. No witnesses, Marco said, rolling up his sleeves. Just you and me, like the old days. Adrian unbuttoned his cuffs, folding them back. His body ached from days without proper sleep, but adrenaline sharpened his senses. The old days are over, Marco. For you, maybe. Marco circled him like a predator. But I'm just getting started. When I'm done with you, I'll use those files to blackmail every family from here to Boston. I'll rebuild what you destroyed and make it bigger. Better. And you think that'll bring your father back? Erase what happened.
No Marco Langt. Throwing a wild punch.
But it'll make me feel better. Adrian sidestepped, letting Marco's momentum carry him past. You're fighting angry. That's sloppy. Marco spun and charged again. This time his fist connected with Adrian's ribs. Pain exploded through his side. Adrian staggered back, then countered with a jab to Marco's jaw. Marco's head snapped sideways. They traded blows, brutal, ugly, desperate. Marco fought with rage, landing heavy hits that left Adrian's face bleeding. But Adrian fought with precision, targeting weak points, conserving energy. You know what your problem is, Moretti? Marco grabbed Adrian's shirt and drove a knee into his stomach. You think walking away makes you noble, but you're still the same killer. You just pretend you're not. Adrian dropped to one knee, gasping. Marco was right. Every instinct screamed to fight dirty, to hurt Marco permanently. The old Adrian would have already crushed his windpipe or snapped his neck. But that wasn't who he wanted to be. Not for Lucas. Marco kicked him in the chest. Adrian fell onto his back, the world spinning. Marco stood over him, breathing hard. Stay down. It's over. Adrian thought of Lucas. 4 years old, watching from inside the warehouse, learning what kind of man his father was. He couldn't let that boy's first memory of him be this, broken and beaten on a loading dock. Adrian rolled, grabbed Marco's ankle, and yanked. Marco fell hard onto the concrete. Adrian scrambled up and landed a punch to Marco's temple. Another to his nose. Blood sprayed. Marco roared and tackled Adrian. They crashed into a stack of crates. Wood splintered. Adrian's shoulder screamed in pain, but he kept fighting. You destroyed everything. Marco's hands found Adrian's throat. Everything. Adrian clawed at Marco's grip, vision darkening at the edges. He remembered a technique from years ago, a pressure point that would disable without killing. His thumb found the nerve cluster below Marco's ear and pressed hard. Marco's eyes widened. His grip loosened. Adrian shoved him off and staggered to his feet. Marco lay gasping on the concrete, clutching his neck. Finish it. Go ahead. Show your son who you really are. Adrian stood over him, fists clenched. It would be so easy. One more hit. Marco would go down and stay down. No more threat. No more danger to his family. But Lucas was watching. And Claire's voice echoed in his memory. Do not raise our child in violence. No. Adrian said quietly. I'm done being that man. He turned toward the warehouse door. Marco lunged, pulling a knife from his boot. The blade flashed in the morning light, aimed at Adrian's back. Adrian spun, caught Marco's wrist, and twisted. The knife clattered away. Marco stumbled forward, off balance, toward the edge of the loading dock. For one frozen moment, their eyes met. Then Marco was falling. He hit the water 20 feet below with a tremendous splash. Adrian rushed to the edge, looking down. Marco surfaced, sputtering and flailing. The current was strong here, pulling him downstream. Help!
Marco screamed.
I can't, the current. Adrian could walk away. Let the river take Marco. It would solve everything. Instead, he grabbed a coil of rope hanging on a post and threw it down. Grab it. Marco caught the rope with shaking hands. Adrian pulled, muscles burning, until Marco was close enough to grab the dock pilings. He hauled himself up, collapsing on the concrete, coughing up river water. Why?
Marco gasped.
Why save me? Because my son is watching, Adrian said. And I want him to know that mercy is stronger than revenge. Behind them, the warehouse door burst open. Maya appeared, carrying Lucas. The boy's face was pressed against her shoulder, but his eyes peeked out, wide and curious. Marco's men followed, weapons lowered. They stared at their boss, soaking wet, defeated, humiliated. It's over, Marco, Adrian said. You lost. Now honor the deal. Marco looked at his men, at Adrian, at the boy who had his father's eyes. Something in him broke.
Yeah.
It's over. He pulled out Adrian's phone and tossed it back. Take your files. Take your family. Get out of Portland, his voice was hollow. But Moretti? If I ever see you again, deal's off. Next time, one of us dies. There won't be a next time. Adrian walked toward Maya and Lucas. I'm done with this world. Marco watched them go, then looked at his men. Let them leave. Boss, you're just gonna... I said let them leave. Marco's roar echoed across the water. It's over. Adrian reached Maya. She was crying, relief flooding her features. Lucas looked up at him with those impossibly green eyes. Are you my daddy? The boy asked in a small voice. Adrian's throat tightened. He knelt down, making himself level with his son. Yeah, buddy. I am. Lucas studied him. The bruises, the blood, the exhaustion. You're hurt.
I'm okay.
Did you come to save me? I did. Lucas was quiet for a moment. Then he reached out and took Adrian's hand. His fingers were so small, so trusting. Thank you, Lucas whispered. Adrian couldn't speak. He just held his son's hand and nodded. Maya touched his shoulder. We need to go. Before Marco changes his mind. They walked away from the warehouse, from Marco's defeated crew, from the violence that had defined Adrian's entire life. The morning sun broke through the mist, painting everything gold. For the first time in 7 years, Adrian felt something like hope. They made it 3 blocks before the black SUV cut them off. Adrian pushed Maya and Lucas behind him as car doors opened. 6 men stepped out, weapons drawn. And from the lead vehicle emerged a face Adrian recognized, Vincent Caruso, the lieutenant from the gambling den. Going somewhere, Moretti? Vincent's smile was predatory. Adrian's heart sank. Vincent. I thought we had a deal. We did. But deals change. Vincent gestured to his men. See, I had a conversation with Marco's crew about an hour ago. Seems there was a disagreement at the warehouse. Marco got soft, let you walk away with everything. He shook his head. That's not how this business works. Marco honored our agreement. Marco's finished. His own men don't respect him anymore. Not after he let Adrian Moretti walk away alive. Vincent pulled out a gun. But me? I'm going to finish what should have been done 7 years ago. And then I'm taking those files, selling them to the highest bidder, and rebuilding the Volino crew the right way. Maya stepped forward, her voice shaking but firm. Those files are already sent. Remember? Time-delayed email. You kill us, and Yeah, about that, Vincent checked his watch. My tech guy broke into your email 10 minutes ago. Found the draft, deleted it. So that bluff? It's dead. He aimed his gun at Adrian's chest. Just like you're about to be. Lucas started crying. Adrian felt the boy's small hand clutching his pant leg. Vincent, listen to me, Adrian said carefully. You don't want to do this. Not in front of a child. I don't care about your kid. I care about restoring my family's reputation. Vincent's finger moved to the trigger. Any last words? Adrian looked down at Lucas, his son, terrified and innocent, watching the man who was supposed to protect him stand helpless against 6 armed men. And something inside Adrian shifted. For 7 years, he'd told himself he'd changed, that he'd left the violence behind, that mercy and restraint made him better than the monster he'd been. But maybe change wasn't about becoming someone different. Maybe it was about knowing when to be the monster, and for what reasons. Yeah, Adrian said quietly. I've got last words. He looked at Maya. Take Lucas. Run to the marina. Don't look back. Adrian. Go. Maya grabbed Lucas and ran. Vincent's men started to follow, but Adrian moved, faster than they expected, faster than should have been possible for a man who'd just fought Marco Santoro. He grabbed the nearest gunman's wrist, twisted it until bones cracked, and took the weapon. One shot, into the ground near Vincent's feet. Not to kill.
To buy time.
New rule. Adrian shouted as Vincent's men scattered for cover. Anyone who follows that woman and child, I will end. This is between me and Vincent. Everyone else walks away. Vincent laughed from behind an SUV. You're outnumbered 6-1. I've faced worse odds. Adrian used a parked car for cover, scanning the street. Your men know who I am, Vincent. They know what I did to build my empire. You really think they're willing to die for you?
Silence.
Adrian could see the other men hesitating, glancing at each other. He's bluffing, Vincent shouted. He's retired.
Soft.
He won't even kill Marco Santoro. I didn't kill Marco because I chose mercy, Adrian called back. That doesn't mean I'm incapable. Ask your men if they want to find out the difference. One of Vincent's men lowered his weapon. Boss, maybe we should. You take orders from me. Vincent's voice cracked with desperation. Anyone who walks away, I'll hunt you down myself. Adrian saw his opening. While Vincent was distracted, he moved, rolling from behind the car, coming up near the lead SUV. 2 of Vincent's men were close. Adrian disarmed the first with a strike to the wrist, then used the man's own weapon to pin him against the vehicle. Leave, Adrian said quietly.
Now.
While you can. The man nodded frantically and ran. The second came at Adrian with a knife. They grappled. Adrian was older, slower, but he had decades of experience against this punk's raw aggression. He deflected the blade, drove his elbow into the man's solar plexus, and sent him crashing to the pavement. For left, including Vincent. This is your last chance, Adrian shouted. Walk away, or I stop pulling punches. 3 of the remaining men looked at each other, then at Vincent. One of them dropped his gun and backed away. Then another. Then the third. Now it was just Vincent. Cowards! Vincent screamed at his fleeing crew. Then he turned back to Adrian, his gun raised.
Fine.
Just you and me, old man. Adrian stepped into the open, his own weapon at his side. You don't want to do this, Vincent. Yes, I do. Vincent's hand was shaking. My whole life, I've been in the shadows. Second place. Never good enough. But if I kill the legendary Adrian Moretti, if I take everything you have, I'll finally matter. Is that what this is about? Adrian's voice softened. Proving yourself. Don't psychoanalyze me. Vincent fired. The bullet went wide. His hand was shaking too badly. Adrian didn't return fire. You think killing me makes you important? Adrian took a step forward. I built my empire on violence, Vincent. And, you know what it got me? A dead wife. 7 years alone. A son who doesn't know me. That's your definition of success. Shut up. Vincent fired again. Another miss. Adrian kept walking toward him. You're young. 35, maybe? You've got time to be something better than this. Something that doesn't end with you bleeding out in a street or rotting in prison. I said, shut up. Vincent's voice broke. You don't get to lecture me. You don't get to pretend you're better than us. You're Adrian Moretti. You're the devil. I was, Adrian agreed. He was close now, almost within arm's reach. But I'm trying not to be anymore. And if I can change, so can you. Vincent's gun wavered. Tears ran down his face, from rage or fear or shame. Adrian couldn't tell. I can't. This is all I know. This is all I am. Then that's your choice. Adrian lowered his weapon completely. But I'm not killing you, Vincent. Not today. Not for wanting what everyone wants to matter. To be remembered. For a long moment, they stood facing each other. Vincent's gun was still raised, his finger on the trigger. Then, slowly, he lowered it. Get out of here, Vincent said hoarsely. Take your family and go. Before I change my mind. Adrian studied him, then nodded. Thank you. He turned and walked away, his back exposed, waiting for the bullet that never came. Behind him, Vincent slid down against the SUV, his gun clattering to the pavement. He sat there, head in his hands, while Adrian walked toward the marina where his family was waiting. The sun was fully up now, burning away the last of the mist. Adrian had faced his past, confronted the violence that had defined him. And he'd chosen mercy over murder, understanding over revenge. Just like Claire would have wanted. 3 weeks later, the countryside safe house sat quiet in the afternoon sun. It was a small farmhouse 2 hours outside of Portland, white paint peeling slightly, a porch with rocking chairs, fields of wildflowers stretching toward distant mountains. The kind of place where nobody asked questions and people minded their own business. Adrian sat on the porch steps, watching Lucas chase butterflies through the tall grass. The boys' laughter carried on the breeze, pure and uncomplicated, the sound of a child who was slowly forgetting the fear. Maya came out with 2 glasses of lemonade and sat beside him. The bruise on her face had faded to a yellowish shadow. She'd stopped looking over her shoulder every few minutes. He's resilient, she said, watching Lucas. Kids are. Yeah. Adrian took the lemonade but didn't drink. Has he had any nightmares? Only 2 this week. Down from 5 the week before. Maya glanced at him. He asks about you. What does he ask? If you're really his daddy. If you're coming back. If you're one of the good guys or bad guys, she smiled sadly. I told him you're complicated. That's a diplomatic answer. It's the truth. Maya was quiet for a moment. I talked to a lawyer. Use some of the money you gave us. Lucas is officially registered under his real name now. Lucas Moretti. Birth certificate amended. Everything legal. Adrian's throat tightened. Thank you. I also filed for permanent custody. Listed you as the father with visitation rights if you want them. She looked at him directly. Do you want them? Adrian watched his son. The way he moved, the spark of joy in his eyes. More than anything. But Maya, I meant what I said. I won't disrupt his life. I won't be the reason he grows up scared or constantly moving or looking over his shoulder. The financial records helped with that, Maya said. The FBI took them, gave us immunity and witness protection in exchange. Marco Santoro and what's left of the Volino crew are under investigation. Vincent Caruso turned state's witness 2 days ago, cooperating in exchange for a lighter sentence. Your old family's accounts are frozen. The whole operation is collapsing. Adrian had heard. He'd also heard that Marco had disappeared, gone underground, probably to Mexico or further south. Vincent's testimony would put him away for decades if they found him. So we're safe, Maya continued. Really safe. Lucas can go to school under his real name. I can stop pretending to be someone else. We can actually live. That's good. That's what Claire wanted for him. Maya studied his face. But you're still leaving, aren't it? Adrian nodded slowly. I have to. For now. As long as there's any chance someone might come looking for me, I can't be close to him. I won't paint a target on his back. Adrian. But I'll visit. If you'll let me. Once a month, maybe. From a distance at first. Until we're sure it's safe. Until Lucas decides how much he wants me in his life. He finally met her eyes. I'm his father, Maya. But you're his parent. You earned that right. I won't take it from you. Maya's eyes filled with tears.
He needs you.
He needs to be safe more than he needs me. Adrian set down his lemonade and stood. I set up a trust fund. Money for my old accounts that the FBI didn't freeze. It's in Lucas's name. Enough for college, a house someday, whatever he needs. You're the trustee. I can't accept. It's not for you. It's for him. Claire's insurance policy kept him safe from my past. This is my insurance policy for his future. Adrian pulled an envelope from his jacket. Everything's in here. Account numbers, passwords, the lawyer's contact information. And a letter for Lucas, when he's old enough to understand. Maya took the envelope with shaking hands. What does it say? That I'm sorry I wasn't there for his first 4 years. That his mother was the bravest person I ever met. That he should be whoever he wants to be, and never let my mistakes define him. Adrian's voice roughened. And that I love him. Even though I barely know him. Even though I don't deserve to. I love him. Lucas came running up, his hands cupped around something.
Look.
I caught a butterfly. He opened his hands. A monarch butterfly sat on his palm for a moment, then flew away into the sky. Lucas watched it go, his face full of wonder. That was cool, Adrian said. Lucas looked at him, really looked at him, and something shifted in his eyes. Recognition. Understanding beyond his years.
Are you leaving? The boy asked.
Adrian crouched down to his level. Yeah, buddy. I have to go away for a while. Because of the bad men? Because I want to make sure you're safe. That no bad men ever find you again. Lucas was quiet, processing this. Then he stepped forward and hugged Adrian. A fierce, desperate hug that nearly broke Adrian's heart. I want you to stay, Lucas whispered. I know. And someday, when it's safe, I will. I promise. Adrian held his son, memorizing the feeling. But right now, the best thing I can do for you is make sure nobody can hurt you. Understand? Lucas nodded against his shoulder. Will you come back? Every chance I get. And I'll call. And send letters. And presents on your birthday. Adrian pulled back, looking into those green eyes, so like his own. You're my son, Lucas. Nothing will ever change that. Not distance. Not time. Not anything. Okay, Lucas said. Then, with the resilience only children possess, he smiled. Can you come to my birthday party? It's in January. I'll try my best. Promise. Adrian kissed his forehead. I promise. He stood and looked at Maya. She was crying silently, holding the envelope against her chest. Take care of him, Adrian said. I will. And Adrian. She stepped forward and hugged him, brief but genuine. Thank you. For saving him. For being better than Claire feared you'd be. I'm trying. Adrian walked to his car, a different one, registered under a new name. He'd become good at disappearing over the past 7 years. This time felt different though. Harder. Because this time, he was leaving something behind that mattered. He drove down the long driveway, watching them in his rearview mirror. Maya with her arm around Lucas. The boy waving goodbye, his stuffed dinosaur tucked under his other arm. Adrian waved back until they disappeared from view. The road stretched ahead, empty, uncertain, full of possibility. He didn't know where he'd go. Maybe the coast again. Maybe somewhere new. Somewhere he could start over, build something legitimate, become the man Lucas deserved as a father. He'd spent 7 years running from his past. Now he was running toward a future. And for the first time in his life, Adrian Moretti felt something he'd never felt before. Hope. Not the desperate, fragile hope of a man trying to survive, but the solid, enduring hope of a father who'd found his purpose. His son was safe. His son was loved. His son knew he existed. That was enough. For now, it was enough. The sun was setting as Adrian drove west, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. Behind him, in a safe house hidden among wildflowers, a 4-year-old boy went back to chasing butterflies, the weight of violence slowly lifting from his small shoulders. And somewhere in the distance, a retired mafia boss smiled. Because he'd done the one thing he'd never thought possible. He'd chosen love over violence, family over empire, redemption over revenge. And in doing so, he'd finally become free.
The end.